You have tuned into the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Julio. Hey everybody, this is the BearDown Corner. I'm Sergeant Julio. Let's get you caught up. So, we're in the off season. There's not a lot of stories going around, but we got you covered with a few. And the start of State of the Franchise. So, what we did with State of the Franchise last year was we broke down all the divisions week by week in an 8-part series. So this week, we're going to start with the AFC North, and we're going to dive into that after we let you know on that Mr. Florida Attorney General has issued a investigative subpoena about the Rooney Rule. So to wrap up basically what that means, from the story that I caught, basically the state of Florida has issues against the Rooney Rule, which I understand. In the original description for it, it was to hire minorities, to create a diversified culture, to betterment of the NFL, right? Basically, Florida is more or less ill, and it's like discriminative against people's rights and whatever the hell else. It's basically racist, all right? Shocking, right? So the NFL revised in how they depict the Rooney Rule to make it more kid-friendly in today's society, basically. I don't really think anything's coming from this. If anything altogether, they should abolish the Rooney Rule. Things are moving in a different direction, but you know what? If it's going to be an issue, get rid of it. If not, leave it in place, because honestly, this rule has been good. It has allowed a lot of NFL head coaches to come through the system in the ranks that may not have been given an opportunity before. But when you have these fucking Florida Attorney General, why do you give so much shit about this? Just leave it. The Rooney Rule has worked for 25 years. Change the lettering and call it a day. I don't know what he thinks he's going to get out of the NFL. I haven't seen any other motive other than just being a dickhead. But anyway, that's my take on it. Tom Moore, the legendary assistant coach that has won 4 Super Bowls with 3 franchises. 2 with Pittsburgh, 1 with Tampa, and 1 with, one with the Indianapolis Colts. I wasn't trying to finger anyone there. I was just like 1, 2, oh, damn. Anyway, he is going back to his alma mater in Iowa to basically be helpful mentor to their new head coach that they brought in. I like Tom Moore, man. I don't know if a lot of people know about him, but he was there when Peyton Manning was a rookie. And he helped develop him into the quarterback that he later on became. In his early seasons, Manning wasn't trash, but he sure needed some fine-tuning, believe it or not. And Tom Moore was one of the reasons why they won the Super Bowl in 2006 against the Bears and went on to have the success that he did as he went on to Tampa to help Tom Brady win a Super Bowl over there. And he won a pair with Pittsburgh over his years there. So back in the day. Good for him. And lastly but not least, running back Devon Achane is now 4 years, $64 million. One of the highest paid running backs in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins have said, you ain't going nowhere, kid. All right, let's dive into it. State of the franchise. Baltimore Ravens. They start off their offseason by firing head coach John Harbaugh, bringing in defensive coordinator from the Los Angeles Chargers, Jesse Minter. His defensive mindset schemes still kind of fall in line with what this team already is built to be, so they didn't have to do too much reinventing, I guess. When it comes to additions by the Ravens, they improved their defensive line that needed a little bit of pass rush bolstering, so they go and grab former defensive end from their division rival Trey Hendrickson on a 4-year, $112 million contract. Lock up John Simpson at guard position for a 3-year, $30 million. Help protect their Pro Bowl quarterback in Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP. But here's the thing. That's going to be a little tough because they lost Tyler Lindenbaum to free agency to the Raiders. That is a huge hit as the all-pro center moves from one team to the other. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do to necessarily fix that. I didn't really see any solidified center moves in the offseason for them, so I guess maybe they're hoping a guy develops. They did select Vega Lone, offensive guard, in the first round, and another edge rusher in Zion Yun in the second round. So it looks like they were kind of focusing more on the offensive and defensive line side of things. Well, when it comes to the Ravens, as long as you have Lamar, you're going to be in it, regardless of the situation. Do I think they're going to compete for a Super Bowl? Fuck no. Do I think they're going to compete for the division? Yeah, they will. But I don't see this team being a juggernaut like the past couple of years. I just don't. I think they're about to get a hit with a little bit of reality, unless Jesse Mintner has revolutionized this team from what John Harbaugh had them. They're still the same team from last year. You still got old-ass Derrick Henry doing his magical stuff as he's never going to age, right? You got the triage of wide receivers in bitchy Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, who's underrated and a former first-round pick, but it seems like they just won't hand the torch to him. DeAndre Hopkins isn't coming back, so like, I don't know. I don't see anything that jumps out me on paper as to why the Ravens should be the AFC North champs this upcoming season. You know what? They could make playoffs, but they could also be out of it again. I could very well see that happening, being a middle-of-the-pack team. The Browns fired head coach Kevin Stefanski and brought in Todd Monken. First-time head coach, long-time assistant. The Browns are just a goddamn dysfunctional franchise. They're dysfunctional all around. And I like the moves they made. I do, because I know they lost pretty much their entire offensive line in the free agency. So what do they do to help with that? Well, let's go re-sign Tavon Jenkins, who's already on our roster for roster depth, right? You go and trade for two guys. Titus Howard from the Houston Texans and Angleton Jenkins from the Packers. So you got two starting caliber linemen, right? They didn't go out and get like giant names. It's kind of hard to when you got a Deshaun Watson cap hit fucking your salary cap. But they go and they do the best that they can. So they bring in a couple of vet offensive linemen. They sign Zion Johnson, who is their big free agent acquisition on the line. And they draft a left tackle in the draft at number 9 overall, Spencer Fano. I really like what they decided to do here. They noticed that, okay, our offensive line is gone. They didn't want to re-sign. Maybe we couldn't re-sign them. Whatever the case. We need to address this. And they did. Piece by piece by piece. They put together an offensive line to protect whoever the hell is going to be quarterback for this team, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson. Because let's be honest, Kevin Gabriel at this point, or whatever the hell that Gabriel's kid's name is, he ain't getting a shot. Not in Cleveland. He's a good prospect. I think, in all fairness, you should have Kevin Stefanski and the Falcons trade for him, like some rumors were going on in the offseason. But maybe he doesn't even want that. Maybe he wants a complete fresh start with the Falcons. Either way, the Browns have addressed their offensive line situation. They lost tight end David Njoku and linebacker Devin Bush. Those are notable names from their ball side in free agency. Bush went to the Bears. Njoku, I think he signed with the Chargers that I seen last week. Either way, they're not back, but they don't have to worry. Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be just fine, and they signed another tight end that fits more their system. Casey Conception and Denzel Boston, a pair of wide receivers, first and second round picks in their next two picks the Browns had. they're trying to lock up and solidify the wide receiver position. Because let's be honest, Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy weren't getting the job done. Jerry Jeudy's a flash in the pan that he once was. He can have a magical game like he did against Denver, 2 years ago? But he can't do shit outside of that. He is lazy. He has shown that he doesn't give a shit enough to step up to the plate as they've asked him. This is a former first-round pick by the Broncos. And he just didn't give a shit. Got traded to Cleveland and was like, I'm your number one. I don't get enough targets. I don't get enough. Well, get open. Am I missing something? Get open. Anyway, they finish off with, I guess, the notable defensive signing, Quincy Williams, replace Devin Bush. Outside of that, you know what? The Browns, they might be dysfunctional. They might have lost some pieces. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think, though. And even if they are, they're the Browns. We expect it out of them. The Cincinnati Bengals, boy, they had a nice offseason. Everyone knew about the defensive woes of last year, so they addressed it. And let's break that down. Free agency. You signed Boyd Mafe, former edge rusher from the Seattle Seahawks, on a 3-year, $60 million. Okay, good. Jonathan Allen, big defensive tackle stud, 2-year, $25 million. I like it. Oh, what's that? We need more defensive line trenches help? Well, let's just trade for Dexter Lawrence II for a fucking number 10 overall pick because he's better than who we had on our draft board. So they pick him up, give him a 2-year extension. He's there for the next 3 years. The guy's 28. He's in his prime. And you basically put together, along with your final pick in your, well, not your first round, but your first pick in the draft, which was in the second round, Cassius Howell, a second-round defensive end, to line up your front four. Let's not forget, they got Shamir, the linebacker from last year, as the first-round pick, and they saw, they still have some pieces there. They have guys on DB still from a few years back. This defense could look it is a lot different, completely different. I think different for the better. You're going to put a half-decent, maybe they're the 15th overall best defense, let's say, next year. Maybe even the 20th. When you have an offense like the Bengals do, and they are in sync, you ain't stopping it. You got to compete against it. So if their defense is going to hold you once or twice a game, the Bengals could be the dark horse of the AFC North. That's all I'm going to say. They have, I believe, based on youth-wise, talent-wise, and the fact that we listened to our entire fan base and got told our defense was shit, so we went to upgrade it this offseason. Offense is still intact. They re-signed Orlando Brown Jr. to an extension to continue covering the blind side of Joe Burrow. If they don't get it done this year, not a Super Bowl, maybe not even the AFC North title, but at least playoffs, there could be some changes happening next offseason. But as far as this upcoming season, if I'm a Bengals fan, woo, I am excited. A lot of things to be excited for. Hell, you guys even signed Brian Cook, a decent above starter safety, on a 3-year, $40 million. You brought in former safety Kyle Duggar from the Patriots and Steelers. This, on paper anyway, looks like a good team. Looks like a possibly deceptive dark shadow horse team that could create a lot of havoc. But we'll find out. And finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers, state of the franchise. Here we go. Mike McCarthy was brought in as head coach after longtime head coach Mike Tomlin was relieved of duties or, separated mutually, whatever the hell you want to call it. Either way, Mike McCarthy is now at the helm. And Aaron Rodgers is coming back to help him for one season at least, as the quarterback has officially signed a 1-year, $22 million contract, 25 based on incentives. Let's just be honest, he'll get it. To come back. And honestly, this is good. Stability at the quarterback position for the second straight year. Same guy, right? All the boys were back. They got a couple new receivers. They traded for Michael Pittman Jr. They drafted a kid, I think in the 3rd or 2nd round. Drafted a lineman at number 19 overall, or whatever the hell their middle pick was. Either way, they added just enough youth through the draft. They actually had a pretty big draft. They had, I believe it was your first. They had 2 seconds, 3 thirds, maybe even 3 fourths. But either way, it was a long draft list. I was like, holy shit, you guys are replenishing the youth bucket there, which they need to. That is an older team. That is an older team. But they also picked up Drew Aller in the 3rd round to be the quarterback of the future, maybe. I don't know. You got Will Howard over there. You got, Mason Rudolph ain't going to be the future of that team. He's coming into his 30s at this point. Not saying he's a bad quarterback, but he had his chance. They signed Rico Dowell to help on offense. That is going to be, let me just say, a disgusting little 2-back running back system. They had a decent running game and running catching game going with both Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell last year. Gainwell left, and you replace him with Rico Dowell, who had multiple 200-yard games and looked like he was a starter again. Smart move. And the fact they got him at 2-year, $12 million, obviously he's just going to try and win a championship if he can, or somewhere where he can be utilized and get more playing time, right? Jalen Warren is their incumbent starter, but it's going to be a 2-headed running back system there. Jamal Dean comes in on a 3-year, $36 million contract. So overall, my assessment for the Steelers, honestly, I'm going to put it as between the Steelers and the Bengals this year. I don't see Baltimore is going to be competitive, but I just feel those two teams are above Baltimore. And I can't figure out on Pittsburgh quite, because they're a solid veteran team that did make playoffs. They won the AFC North last year. And really, there's not, I don't know, I think the reinvigoration of Mike McCarthy and an offensive system that's going to be more explosive than whatever the fuck Mike Tomlin and that Goosecheck guy, whoever, Arthur Smith, sorry, their former offensive coordinator. I think it's going to be a lot better for them. I just do. So we'll have to see what the season brings, but as far as everything that they did in the offseason, it's looking good. And that is your wrap-up of the AFC North. Honestly, I'm going to pick the Bengals to win the division just out of that whole dark horse thought. If that defense can be what they hope it to be, look out on the Bengals this year. They could be revisiting the Super Bowl maybe. Just saying. That possibility lives there. It is Joe Burrow after all. He has beat Patty Mahomes in the playoffs. So, I don't know. Sit back and we'll have to see later on when it comes to live and fruition this September when the season starts. But anyway, that's it for us here today. I am Sergeant Holio. This has been the BearDown Corner. You can catch us live everywhere you can get your podcasts every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock 6 o'clock General Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. I always do that. You be safe, take care, and we'll catch you here next week on the BearDown Corner.